Hello and welcome to Moms on Mics. I'm Joanne,
I'm Cash.
And I'm Sophia.
and this week we continue our coverage with the West Memphis 3 series with the testimony of Detective Bryn Ridge. So the West Memphis 3 trials, the Damien, Echols, and Jason Baldwin trial, February 28th to March 18th, 1994. Detective Bryn Ridge witnessed for the prosecution. Detective Ridge explains the terrain in the area that he searched on his three-wheeler until he got a call to return to the Blue Beacon truck stop, which was where the search headquarters was. Returning to the search area around 1:15 to 1:20, where he found that Mike Allen was on the scene, a sergeant with the police department, Lieutenant Diane Hester on the scene, who's a detective with the police department, and Inspector Gitchell, and I believe Stan Birch and Detective Bill Durham were also there. Detective Ridge says, I was informed of some shoes that were found floating in the water and that Mike Allen had gotten into the water to see about the retrieval of those shoes, see if they were those of the victims. And while he was doing so, he found the body of one of the victims. There was also a stick that had been located approximately 10 feet away from the body. The stick was dislodged, and when it came floating up out of the water, there was a shirt wrapped around the end of the stick. The ditch being approximately just over the knee deep in that area, I would take at the waterline and rake my hand all the way around the mud there, keeping my hand at the edge of the mud all the way through from one side to the other. When that was completed, I would go and do the same thing and go back to the other side, being careful to overlap the same area so that nothing was missed. And I would go through that as I went through, like I said, approximately 10 foot before coming to the body. Fogelman asks, and after you discovered Michael Moore, what did you do? Ridge says, okay. The body was placed on the east bank, just above where he was located. And then we began the process of removing those items that were floating in the water, including shirt, pants, shoes, and that type of activity. Okay, so it's important to note here that they should not have removed the bodies. They should have called the coroner, and only the coroner should have removed them. We did mention this during the episode when we talked about the autopsies, but just as a reminder, removing the bodies, leaving them out on the hot, humid air for hours where bugs, critters could get at them, definitely harmed any evidence that may have been left there, right? So Ridge continues, the search continued in the same manner all the way down through the creek. Going through, there was a limb laying over in the creek that had actually shoes were floating and had come up against the limb. In flowing water, when something comes up against a limb or debris or whatever, that's where it stops. And that's the way we found those shoes.
Okay, at near the body where Michael Moore was found, the water was devoid or there was an absence of any debris floating in that particular area. There is very little, if any, in that area. As you got lower in the stream, there was more debris, including the shoes floating, the clothes floating, and what have you, the Boy Scout cap? The further you went, the more debris you ran into. Approximately 25 feet later, measured as 27 feet, below the body of Michael Moore, downstream, I found the body of Stevie Branch. Rich says he removed the bodies of Michael Moore and Stevie Branch, placing them on the bank. After observing the injuries of Stevie as he was removed from the water, and I laid him on the bank, he had some severe cuts to the facial area on the left side. He was tied with ligatures, right hand to right foot, left hand to left foot. His penis had a dark reddish bruise-like color to it. I continued to search downstream from that area in the previous search and found the body of Christopher Byers. I placed it up on the bank. The injuries to the genital area it looked as if his penis had been removed. There were stab marks all around the area, bruising to his body, and injuries to his head. Detective Ridge goes on to describe more photos of the crime scene. 3 shoes floating in the water, white tennis shoes, Cub Scout cap, black tennis shoe, the stick with the shirt wrapped around it that was dislodged and floated to the top, a pair of pants that was located in the mud just beside the body of Michael Moore. Another photo recovering a second pair of pants that was in the area where the body of Michael Moore was located. Ridge also described that there was an absence of leaves in that area. There were scuff marks, slicked off areas. The grass had mud over the top of it. The stems were actually bent over in the mud. The bank looked different from the surrounding area, which had a lot of leaves and a lot of vegetation sticking out. The flow line, or ditch, is actually a ditch within a ditch. In other words, there are a long sloping bank, and then at the bottom of that sloping bank is an area that holds water, that the water flows in case there's a very heavy rain. And then there will be another bank that goes up on the other side. The smaller area in the center is the lower ditch. They then go on through every item of clothing found. Fogelman asked Ridge to identify the item. Then Ford asked if he bagged each item himself and if they were in the same state as when he found them. Ford also asked if anyone else handled the items, if the sacks they are placed in are clean, and the sticks they brought in as evidence. This stick was not recovered by Detective Ridge at the crime scene. This was a stick that Mr. Ridge found at the crime scene 2 months after the murders on July 1st, 1993. The court. All right.
Hey, can we just say, like, bringing random sticks from the crime scene area months later, probably not ideal. You don't know if those are the same sticks. You don't, like, I don't know. I just think they should have, for one, they should have collected all the sticks in the area, especially because the clothing was wrapped around sticks, right? So they should have brought all the sticks that were there. But just to bring some random ones that you don't know if those are the ones that were actually used or not.
My thing though is like being a detective, what goes through your mind that you take the bodies out of the water?
Yeah. Like I said,
detective.
yeah, like I said, was it the last episode we talked about how the detectives often think that they have higher like jurisdiction, but the coroner actually does. Like when it comes to the dead body, the coroner is in charge, not the detectives. The coroner decides when it's moved, where it's moved to. And yeah, it's major mess ups with this crime scene, which is really unfortunate because who knows how much evidence is missing, right?
Ridge states, I did not take this stick into evidence until the statement of Jesse Miskelly in which he said, a stick. Price, Your Honor, move for mistrial. Your Honor. The jury is removed from the room while the lawyers approach the bench. Ridge blurting out, the fact that Jesse Miskelly gave a confession was the reason for the request for the mistrial. The reason that Jason and Damien were being tried together, but not with Jesse Miskelly, is because of Jesse Miskelly's confession. Damien and Jason never confessed, nor agreed with Jesse's confession, so they felt their cases would have been affected by the jury having the knowledge of Jesse's confession. So the trials were severed. The confession was not allowed in their trial, and there was to be no mention of it. So technically, the mistrial should have been granted, but it was not. Fogelman, Your Honor. Mr. Price was somehow trying to suggest that this was not the stick found at the crime scene. In fact, that's what he said in his question, that it was not the same one found there at the crime scene, and Detective Ridge said, yes, it was. And he says, well, you mean you didn't get it until July the 1st? And what I heard him say before the objection was, I didn't realize the significance of it until Jesse Miskelly's statement.
And I guess I should have gone through this again. Oh, it doesn't look too bad. Okay. Okay, so Ford says, Judge, he did not say that. Ford says, Judge, he did not say that. Your Honor, on behalf of Mr. Baldwin, we would join in the motion for a mistrial. We feel that at this point in time, the prejudice has been injected into the record. Number one, it was injected at the time of Mr. Price's questioning and not questioning on behalf of Mr. Baldwin's counsel. That in the event that the court would not join, would not agree in the motion for a mistrial based upon these interjections, that this evidence into the trial of Jason Baldwin, we would ask for a severance, Your Honor. So then the court says, anything else, gentlemen, that y'all want to say? The motion for a mistrial for both counsels will be denied. I'm going to say to the jury is to disregard the last answer given by the officer. And as we've talked about before, it's too late. It's already been said. The jury has already heard it. You can't take it back. You can't unhear something, right? When the jury return, they are instructed and told to disregard and not consider the last answer or the last response made by Detective Ridge to the question from Mr. Price, to strike it from their mind and not to give it any consideration. The problem with that, you can't unring a bell. Once mention of the statement is made, the jury can't unhear that. Ridge was then asked, who recovered the stick? And he says, I did. Davidson asks, and how did you recover that? So Ridge explains, initially it was stuck in the mud with a shirt wrapped around the end of it. It became dislodged as I was moving to the body of Michael Moore. He was then asked if he was in the area looking for the evidence and if he was being careful when he was looking for evidence, making sure that he didn't miss anything. Is that correct? Ridge said that he was attempting to. Yes, sir. He was then asked, and when you took the stick out of the water, where did you place it? Did you mark that stick when you placed it on the bank? And Ridge said he placed the stick on the bank but did not mark it. He was asked, you were looking for items with blood on it, I'm sure. You were looking for items that may have skin tissue. Would that be fair to say? You were looking for things that may have fingerprints on them. Would that be fair to say? And yet you left the stick at the scene. Is that correct? And Ridge says, that's correct. Fucking Ridge. I mean, they all have just made mistake after mistake after mistake. And I understand we're talking about 3 dead 8-year-olds, which is probably really traumatizing for these police officers. I understand that. But because it's 3 dead 8-year-olds, now's your time to do the best job possible, which means not screwing up the evidence.
But people will end up just telling you it wasn't that easy back in the day.
But for what reason? What in 1993 collecting evidence was so much different than it is now?
I don't know, but it makes me feel old.
Shut up. I told you before, you're not allowed to say you're old. You're 10 years younger than me. But it's not like there was DNA then, right? Like not quite to the same extent we have now, but there was DNA testing. So they should have, I don't know, they just should have known better. God damn it.
Davidson asked, did a light bulb ever go off in your head, thinking when you pulled that out that there may be some evidential value in that stick, and you just left it out there? Anything ever go through that mind like that? Ridge says, not on that day, it didn't. No, sir. Fogelman asked, when the water was pumped out, was there anything over the end of the hose? Ridge says, yes, sir. There was a screen over the hose to see that nothing that would have possibly been suspended in the water may have been pumped out by the pump. Fogelman says, anything of significance found after pumping out the ditch? Ridge then says, no, sir. But I would be curious to know if the screen would have been able to stop hairs and fibers from being washed out with the water.
Doesn't it seem like that wouldn't be possible to catch all that stuff? Depending on what the screen is at the end, like, and I guess they did find some hairs, but the hairs that they found were on the victims, like they were on their bodies or their clothing, right? Like, what would they put at the end of the hose to make sure hairs are not going through?
Right. Because like a pool, right? You can collect hairs. You put like a drain stopper in your tub and you can collect hairs.
Yeah. So maybe then, I guess. But I still feel 1 or 2 slips through, right?
Well, yeah, because of how fine your hair could be, or was it as clean as it of debris from the beginning, or
Yeah. Like I'm sure I'm not doubting that they didn't do the best attempt, I guess, like with draining the ditch or the water, whatever, but there's only so much really, like, because what got stuck in the mud at the bottom, like, how do you see all that?
Search and rescue came in and searched with grappling hooks the 10-mile bayou to see if they could find anything, and bicycles were located near the pipe where they crossed 10-mile bayou. Additional search was conducted with magnets to determine if anything, metal objects, could be found in the flow of the water in 10-mile bayou and the mouth of the creek where the bodies were found. Nothing else was found. He was then asked if on May the 6th, 1993, did you and Detective Allen go to the Bojangles restaurant, and if he talked with a manager there, Marty King. Ridge said, yes, sir. He was then asked, okay, did he tell you an individual had a black man with blood on him had been at the restaurant the evening before? Ridge replied, yes, sir. But when asked if Marty King gave him a pair of sunglasses, Ridge then said, I don't remember a pair of sunglasses, so no, sir.
Bullshit. They did not collect, like, they collected a few blood scrapings, which were lost, so they never tested those. This whole scene pisses me off so much because, at the very least, like, let's say the Mr. Bojangles situation was no relation to this. But
Right.
is the guy okay? Did the guy happen to murder somebody else somewhere? Like, a guy walks into a restaurant covered in blood, acting all weird, and like the staff said that they thought he was having a mental episode of some type, right? You just let him, okay, I'm sure he's fine. We're not even going to search for him after? Like, what if he was injured? What if he needed help? What if someone else needed help that he had just stabbed in a ditch somewhere? Like, it just seems so bizarre that they just let it go.
Yeah.
I feel like these are very shady cops, though.
Right? And I want to say, are they shady or are they just dumb? I want to say, are they like, what is it? Like hillbilly type? Like, are they that are they that dumb because of where they're from and the area? Like, is that a thing, or are they just dumb in general? Like,
I know how they got to become a police officer. Their mail-in certificates.
right? I'd be interested to see what the crime rate in that area was for other things. Like, how many crimes were solved? How many, like, if there was any other crimes that were like, someone was charged and they said, well, no, it wasn't me, whatever, right? If there's any other miscarriages of justice in that area, like, is this how the cops normally act, or was this a one-off?
He was then asked, do you recall taking blood scrapings from the north wall inside the women's bathroom above the toilet? Ridge said, I found on a trace remains, possibly blood in the ladies' bathroom of the Bojangles. Yes, sir. When asked, did you also take blood scrapings from inside of a door to the women's bathroom at Bojangles? Ridge says, I'm not certain. It's possible. He also said he didn't think he collected blood samples from the entrance hall to the bathroom from the seating area at Bojangles. That area had been cleaned to the best of my knowledge. Price asked, okay, all right, Detective Ridge, what is the date that you sent the blood scrapings off to the crime lab to be analyzed? Ridge said, they were never sent. Price asked, they were never sent? Ridge said, that is correct. Price, all right, where are the blood samples at this time? Ridge, I don't know, sir. They were lost. Price, they were lost? Ridge, yes, sir. Price, you mean this is the evidence that y'all have in this case? The blood scrapings are lost? Ridge, if they were blood, yes, sir, they're lost. Price, well, whatever they were, you took samples of something, and was the purpose you took them was to send to the crime lab? Ridge, yes, sir. Price, but they're just lost. Ridge, yes, sir, that's my mistake. I lost a piece of evidence. Price, okay, do you recall if Marty King, the manager of Bojangles, gave you a pair of sunglasses? Ridge, I don't recall the sunglasses. This is infuriating. A huge screw up on Ridge's part, especially as they found The hair belonging to an African American was recovered during the forensic examination from the white sheet covering or transporting Christopher Byers. Considering there is no public record indicating that any African Americans were part of the core forensic team, crime lab technicians, or lead investigators from the West Memphis Police Department. Handling the case could have been pretty significant evidence.
Yeah, I searched basically everybody that handled any part of like transporting the bodies, finding the bodies at any point. And to the best of my knowledge, there was no African American working the case. So this hair is significant. The only African American person that has been like mentioned in this case is Mr. Bojangles, the guy that happens to go into the restaurant covered in blood.
Yeah.
And they lost the blood samples. The fuck? Like,
that seems pretty sick. Like, I don't understand how you lose that. How do you lose that?
right?
How do you lose that?
Yeah, like it's just
That's not something you just lose.
I feel like if you have been a detective for however long you've been a detective, you know that blood samples are significant and you just do your job better and take care of them, right? Like, It's so frustrating. Okay, so Price says, okay, during part of the investigation, did you talk to the witness named Kim Williams somewhere on or about May 8th? Ridge says, I'm trying to remember. I think so. Yes, sir. So here Fogelman objects, assuming Price is going to ask Detective Ridge what someone else told him, claiming hearsay. Price states that he's not going to ask the witness what another witness told him, but what he wrote down concerning, not the statement itself, but his conclusion about the statement after talking to the witness. Specifically about this part that has mentioned occult activity. Some men blackening their faces. The witness saw 2 black males and a white male leaving the wooded area. The judge declares it's hearsay. It's conclusionary supposition and opinion on that part of the officer based upon the unsubstantiated hearsay statement for which the people observed, by which the declarant haven't even been identified. The judge then says, I'm not even sure it's relevant, although it could be. Fucking judge, man. They argue about whether they are suggesting that it was a cult-related killing. Price explains that's not what he's trying to prove, and Fogelman denies that they are not sure if they are going to use that when trying to prove motive, which is an absolute lie. That was their plan all along. But the fact that the judge would say, I don't think that's relevant. You have the hair, and you now have a witness saying they saw 2 black males. How is that not relevant? It's what, sorry?
Hearsay.
But it's not hearsay what Ridge wrote down during that interview. That's not hearsay.
No, because it's his opinion, but...
Yeah, so he should have been asked to explain that. It's only hearsay if he's saying what the other person heard, right? So near the collar of the Boy Scout shirt belonging to Michael Moore, there was a cutting that was taken. According to Ridge, there was no other tearing on the shirt and no noticeable blood on the inside or outside of the shirt. No buttons pulled off or any type of things indicating any kind of a struggle with the Boy Scout shirt. He also said the striped shirt had a cut-out area for the crime lab, and besides that particular cutting, there was no other evidence that the shirt was either being torn or ripped or in a struggle. And again, no blood. He couldn't recall if the striped shirt or any of the shirts were found inside out. The third shirt, again, had the cut-out for the crime lab, and there was no evidence of any kind of knife wounds through this particular t-shirt or of it being torn or ripped, and no evidence of any blood. The 3 pants, Ridge testified, were inside out and buttoned up. There was a cut out of the right knee, which could have been the crime lab cutting. There was no blood on the pants, and the same would be so for the other 2 pairs of pants, except he could only remember 2 of the pants were inside out, and 1 pair was right side out, but he didn't notice if any type of tears or blood on the pants as he pulled them out of the water. Okay, so here's the thing. So these pants are inside out, but they're also buttoned up. Like, if someone took those off, how do you get them off inside out and still buttoned up? Does that not seem weird?
I think it would depend on how thin the kids were.
Yeah, like you could just slip them on and off, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, oh, that for sure, because 9 times out of 10, I do not unbutton my pants when I take them off. I don't even undo the belt usually. I just slip those right off.
Mm-hmm.
But they're usually the right way. They're not inside out and still buttoned up.
Right. So if they were taken off buttoned up and they were taken off inside out and then put on inside out buttoned up.
But how do you like get them off? Like if you're pulling pants off someone, don't you pull at the bottoms?
No.
Sometimes. I guess it depends on the person, right? Like, I mean, I pull, yeah, I guess I would pull the waist down and then pull the bottom, but maybe some people would just pull the waist and peel them off inside out instead of pulling from the bottom.
So
I don't know.
I don't know about pulling off, but I have a 9-year-old, right? When he takes off his pants, his jeans, they're still buttoned up and they're inside out.
Inside out, yeah. Yeah. I was like my daughter's
Oh,
socks.
okay.
They're always inside out in balls. Drives me crazy.
Like he even still has underwear in there.
Okay, so then this is more likely then that they took them off themselves if they're
Yeah,
inside
I could
out
have
and
just put
buttoned
them
up.
on. Like, I mean, I have kids at my school who wear their pants inside out or even backwards, right?
Yeah.
Like it's yeah, it's an 8-year-old thing.
I'm just curious if it's like more like because them being inside out, if it's more likely that they took them off themselves or someone else took them off.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're trying to take pants off someone like in a struggle, and I'm just thinking of all the like not so great movies that I've seen when some poor person is having their pants taken off them when they don't want them, if you know what I mean, then they usually grab them by the ankles and pull them,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because the person's like fighting them coming off. So if it's normal for my kids are too old, so I don't really remember what their pants, how they took their pants off. But Cash, if you're saying like your 9-year-old, if they're often buttoned up and inside out, then maybe it's more like maybe that's something that boys, especially at that age, do. And so maybe it's more likely that they took them off themselves.
Yeah.
Like
Because
whether to go swimming or to whatever, right?
Because it's only his jeans that he would do it with. When it's his sweatpants and that, they're for the most part just like a normal pair. But because jeans are so much tougher to get down, they're inside out, upside down, everything. And the buttons are still done.
Okay, I'm gonna do some experimenting with taking my jeans off. I'm
Pretend
just
you're 8, Joanne. Just
right, and
pretend
I'm
you're
like trying to
8.
get them off in a hurry, or I like because I guess boys typically they're not as cautious or careful with their things, right? Like
Right.
because I had boys, and I don't have the comparison, right? You guys both have each. So is it like do your girls do the same thing? Like is it just a kid thing maybe?
All of my daughter's pants are inside out.
Okay.
All of her socks are inside out. All of her socks are rolled into little balls.
Yep.
Everything is inside out.
Okay.
And I'm
So
like,
maybe
can
it's
you not
more
take your clothes off properly? Ever?
See, maybe my like OCD brain is just never like I can't even if my sock is coming off inside out, I'll put it back on and take it off properly so
Yeah.
it doesn't come off inside out. I don't know why.
Yeah.
But it's just a thing. So maybe it's more common than I'm realizing, maybe.
It's very common. Yeah, it's very common.
Okay.
Yeah.
But the pants just they've always bothered me, but now I realize it's because I don't understand. Not that it's unusual
Yeah.
per se.
And kids do wear their pants inside out all the time. So, and backwards.
See,
I know this.
I know my kids wore like shirts backwards often, like they put it on wrong, whatever. And then the other one would be really quick to point out that they had their shirt on backwards for the, good old embarrassment factor, but never pants. Pants always seem to go on normally. I don't know.
Yeah, my kids usually put the pants on normally. I don't know if it's just because I'm the one that like folds them up for them. So it's on the right side. They know which way it goes. If not, it bothers them. But taking them off is a whole new ballgame.
Hmm. Well, I learned something new. Okay, so when asked about the photograph of a plaster cast that was performed on a latent print removed from the crime scene on May the 6th, 1993, if they were able to match up this particular print with anyone's print who is connected to this case, Ridge said no, which was kind of significant. It was like a footprint that they had in the area. So I guess significant except for the fact multiple people had been searching in the area. So how, like, I guess they did kind of compare it to all the people that were searching. But if neighbors and everybody had been searching all night long, who, like, I don't know. I don't know how I'm sure it is significant, but it just feels like maybe not.
Ridge confirmed they obtained fingerprints and barefoot print impressions of Damien Echols and that during a search of his house, got some boots that belonged to Damien. There were also 2 plaster casts made of footprints at the scene. There was a series of footprint pictures taken at the scene, but realistically, there were so many people searching the area the night of May 5th and police in the area on the 6th, unless the prints matched either Damien, Jason, or Jesse, which they did not, they would not be of much use to finding another suspect. Some of the pictures were also taken 2 to 3 days after the bodies were found, making them even irrelevant. They did take a cast of a tennis shoe print and had pictures of them that appeared to be one left print and one right, which would be significant as Pam Hobbs said that Terry Hobbs was wearing specific shoes, LA Gear tennis shoes. Unfortunately, however, this wasn't until many years later. Those prints did not match any of the shoes found at Damien Echols' house or anyone else's house they searched. They also never found any shoe imprints matching the shoe that the victims were wearing. Another screw-up by both the crime lab and the West Memphis Police Department, they never got a size match for the shoes. This would have been significant information. Wadley, one of Jason Baldwin's defense attorneys, asked Detective, "Were you the officer in charge of checking the school records of Jason and checking the bus logs from school records? Was that a part of your investigation?" Rich said he wasn't, but he thinks he inquired at one time, but I wasn't in charge of that responsibility. I physically went to the lake shore to watch the buses to see what time they dropped the children off. He said he didn't get any records. He just logged down the time. I was the one that did it. Ridge explained that he went out there with all the detective units and all the narcotic units, that they spread out hand to arm length and recovered the entire area of Robin Hood Woods. The area east of that area all the way to the expressway, north of that area to the expressway, and both sides of that ditch in that area. They were searching for any evidence. Any items seized, he took possession of them. If any other officer found any items, they were to give them to Ridge. Wadley asked Ridge to confirm that he was searching in the water and what type of shoes he was wearing at the time. Ridge said that he was wearing dress shoes at first and then rubber boots and that his pants and shoes were wet and muddy. Wadley then asked Ridge to confirm that he took the clothes out. You described how you put the clothes, dripping wet, in sacks. Is that correct? Ridge had replied, "Yes, sir."
Wadley then asked, "Now you've gone through and we've looked at all these sacks today. Did you have a chance to look at all of these, Detective, as we're going through them?" Ridge, "Yes, sir, I did." Wadley, "And on any of the sacks that you looked at, did you see any watermarks on any of these sacks?" Ridge, "I don't visibly see any. No, sir." Wadley, "See any dried mud on any of the sacks?" Ridge, "No, sir." Wadley, "Or any dried inside?" Ridge, "On the inside?" Wadley, "How do you explain that, Detective?" Ridge, "I can't explain it." Wadley then goes back to the stick, asking Is the stick that you found, how was it in the water? Ridge explained it was stuck down in the water in the bottom of the creek. The water in that particular area was just above my knees, probably 28 to 30 inches, and probably 10 to 12 inches was sticking out of the water. It was holding a shirt that was wrapped around the end of the stick. The stick was photographed, and then he took the shirt off of the stick and laid the stick on the bank. It wasn't until Wadley asked, "Did you look at the stick?" that Ridge said, "Yes, sir, I did." Wadley then asked, "Did you study the stick?" Ridge said, "I looked at the stick, yes, sir." Wadley then said, "And the reason you did that was because it's important. That was important, wasn't it, detective?" Ridge says, "Yes, sir, to see if anything was on the stick that may have been of importance." There wasn't any blood, skin, or fingerprints on the stick. And like he said earlier, he didn't put any markings or initials on or next to the stick. The second stick Ridge recovered was just floating in the water and didn't have any clothes wrapped around it.
Okay, can we just note, if you take muddy, wet clothes out of the water and then put them into sacks, there should be watermarks, mud on the inside of said sack,
Yeah.
but there isn't. So this is not the original sacks that they were put into, right? They had to have been transferred at some point. So where are the original sacks that could have had trace evidence left behind?
Right.
That just doesn't make it doesn't make any sense.
Nothing about this case makes sense, girl.
Right? It is
Nothing.
so frustrating. But bad on the defense attorneys for not bringing that up and not pushing that further.
Yeah.
Okay, so then Ridge testified at length about this slicked off area, describing it as an area with an absence of leaves, as the surrounding area had scuff marks. The grass was bent over, mud on the top of it, looks as though somebody may have taken their hand and rubbed the bank. However, Ridge wasn't out there prior to the 6th of May, so he can only speculate that the area wasn't like that prior. Wadley then asked, "Now, you're aware that one of the boys bled to death out there, is that correct?" Ridge said, "That's my understanding from the report from the crime lab." Wadley asks, "If the area was slicked off, as you say it was, that you saw it, the blood was slicked off. You didn't find any blood of any kind there, did you?" Ridge says, "No, sir. I did not find any blood." Wadley says, "I believe you also testified that there were a number of twigs and leaves and debris that was further down in the water. Is that correct?" Ridge says, "Yes, sir." Wadley then says, "Okay, did you take possession of any of those twigs or leaves or debris for testing?" Ridge says, "Surprise, surprise. No, sir." So Wadley, sorry, but like, goddamn guy. Wadley says, "You just left him out there, right?" Ridge says, "Yes, sir." Wadley says, "Just like you left the sticks, correct?" Ridge, "That's correct." Dude, he's telling you you did a shit job. So Ridge confirmed that he was aware of vacant houses in the subdivision area and that the bodies were found in close proximity to a truck stop and truck wash. When questioning is passed over to the prosecution, Ridge explains that the first time he went to the woods was 7:45 in the morning on May 6. There are already 4 people in the area, the father of Stevie Branch, and when I looked to the east into the field, that's on the east side of this little ditch, there are 2 young men hollering and searching. Fogelman never questions Ridge further on this, so we don't know who the 4th person is, and at the time it may not have seemed significant, but knowing what we know now about Terry Hobbs, the identity of that 4th man could absolutely be significant.
Ridge testified that when Michael Moore, Stevie Branch, and Chris Byers were removed from the water, there was no blood. And after they had been out of the water a short period of time, water would start coming out from the wounds of the victims. Fogelman asked Detective Ridge if he had contact and a conversation with the defendant, Damien Echols, on May the 10th, and who else was there at the time. Ridge said that he did, and that Lieutenant Sudbury was with him. Fogelman then asked if during the time that you talked to him, was there any force, promises, threats, or coercion used to get him to talk to you? To which Ridge replied, "No, sir." Ridge explained that he and Lieutenant Sudbury talked with Damien up until the time he was turned over to Officer Durham, and that there was a standard form of 32 questions, a questionnaire that had been filled out that they had compiled earlier, that they had asked many suspects in this case, and they asked Damien those questions. Price asked Officer Ridge, was the interview that you did with Mr. Echols, did you all tape record any of that interview? Ridge says, "No, sir." Price, okay, did you have Mr. Echols review your notes and sign at the bottom of them? Ridge, "No, sir." Price then says, at the conclusion of the interview? Ridge again says, "No, sir." Ridge admitted that during the entire 2-hour interrogation, Damien denied involvement in these murders. When Fogelman asked if there was an article published in a West Memphis newspaper speculating on what the manner and the details of the deaths were, and Ridge stated, "Not to my knowledge. I'm not sure. There were articles published on May 7th. Ridge said there were rumors running rampant in West Memphis during this time in May about what happened out at the crime scene, and that some of these rumors included some of the same things Damien had said during the interrogation, specifically as to the question, how do you think they died? Damien had said probably died of mutilation. He was not the only person that said that the kids probably died of mutilation. He said Damien had indicated that he heard that they were in the water. He said that stones in the area would be something to look for, but Ridge admitted that he never found any stones there. He said that Damien had also said there might be candles, crystals, and knives at the crime scene, but again, none of them were found.
At the crime scene, on one of the trees, the initials M.E. was carved into a tree. Although Damien's name was originally Michael, his last name at that time was Hutchinson. He had never gone by names giving him the initials M.E. Unfortunately, the police did not do any kind of test on the tree to indicate how long the initials M.E. had been on the tree. Ridge admitted that Lieutenant Sudbury asked 2 different questions about why would his fingerprints would be out at the scene, and that neither he or Lieutenant Sudbury at any point told Damien that in fact they didn't find any fingerprints out at the crime scene, and that Damien actually indicated that he had never been out in the Turtle Hill woods. Ridge also says that they asked Damien what his favorite book of the Bible was, and he said Revelations, but he didn't ask any other suspects that question. He also asked him what types of books did he enjoy reading, and that Damien had said Anton LaVey and Stephen King. Ridge then says Anton LaVey is a book of satanic rules and involvement. Stephen King seems to be horror books, and if you're asking if I felt that was strange, yes, sir, I did. Ridge said that it was his opinion that the early on in the investigation elements were there that pointed to an occult killing, and that Dr. Gail Griffiths helped him from that opinion. Ridge said that when he asked Damien where he was on May 5th, he had said that he had been at Lakeshore Trailer Park, gotten with his girlfriend, Dominique Tier, and gone to a location near Center Street where a yard had been mowed. Later, between 3 and 5 p.m., he went to Randy and Susan Sanders' residence. Then he said he went home after his mom had picked him up from Alexander's Laundry on Missouri Street. From there, when he went home, he got on the telephone with Holly George and explained that he talked with Holly George from that time when he got home until 11:30 p.m.
How is it strange that he likes to read Anton LaVey and Stephen King? Just because it's like...
Well, that's not strange. To
right?
me, that's not strange, because who doesn't, right? And movies,
Yeah.
and like that's just...
Right? And in 1993, Stephen King was at his prime, right? He was like great books were coming out from him at that point.
Yeah.
I I don't
I don't
know.
know, maybe back then it was weird. I don't know, right? But I don't think it's strange at all, but
I mean, we can't judge people based on the books
what
that
they
they
read,
read.
yeah.
Like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
It's Cash.
Yeah, I'd
We
be
know what you read.
I'd be the next only fan making a killing.
Right? And I'm sorry, but whose favorite book from the Bible isn't Revelations? That's where all the good shit happens, right? It's like the fire and brimstone parts and all the like it might be like and all the cool shit happens in that one. So I don't know. What I wouldn't give to know what Ridge, like what books Detective Ridge was reading at the
Yeah.
time. If I was a defense lawyer, I'd been like, "Can you tell me what books you read?"
Hmm.
I bet she'd be like, I don't have time to read books. I read car magazines
Yeah.
or fishing magazines or something, right? Anyway, not saying I don't like him. I don't like him. Okay, so Fogelman then says, I want to show you what I have marked for identification purposes as States Exhibit 118 and ask if you can identify that. And where did you recover that item? Ridge says, yes, from the residence of Jason Baldwin. It's 11 t-shirts. Fogelman says, what color are these shirts, by the way? Ridge says, black, with different designs and colors. Fogelman, now I want to show you States Exhibit 119 and ask if you can identify that. Ridge says, yes, sir, I can. It was recovered from Jason Baldwin's residence. 4 black shirts, 1 green rain jacket. Fogelman says, 119, and what color are these shirts again? Ridge says, black. Gasp! Not black t-shirts! Oh no! Lock them up! Oh my God. Okay, so then Ford then asks, how many white t-shirts did you take? Ridge says, none. Ford says, how many were there? Ridge says, I didn't see any. Ford, you didn't see any white t-shirts? Ridge, no, sir. Ford, see any gray t-shirts? Ridge, not that I can recall, no, sir. Ford, are you saying that the only t-shirts he had were black t-shirts? Ridge, that's the shirts I found, yes, sir. And you didn't see a single white t-shirt? Ridge, not that I can recall. I'm sorry, this fucking. Okay, so I'm gonna ask, hey, Sophia, how many white t-shirts do you own?
Not even one.
Cash, how about you?
Maybe one.
Not even. Yeah, I don't even own. You know what? I own. Actually, there is one that I will wear to bed only when I have no more black ones left.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I have 4. They don't get worn often because they are white. And I spill shit. Okay, so Sophia, how many black t-shirts would you say?
Oh my God. I have like 50 black tank tops, if not more. And if I find one that I like, I buy them and I buy them and I buy them and I buy them. So it
Right?
looks like I'm wearing the same black shirt every day, but I'm really not. I just have like 80 of them. No, I
Right?
have so many. I have so many.
Yeah, Cash, how about you?
I'd be between 20 and 50, but I wear the same thing over again.
Right?
Yeah.
Same. Like, I couldn't even guess how many black
Yeah.
shirts I have.
I have so
What
many.
the fuck is the goddamn significance?
There is none.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're all ladies. Ladies, how many pink t-shirts do you have?
I don't have many.
Me neither.
No.
Cash, you're more likely to have pink shirts.
I think I
Cash.
have one for like pink shirt day at school. That's about it.
I don't.
Yeah. I have to.
Yeah, no, I get that.
But yeah, no, I know. You know, even my daughter, she doesn't even have any pink shirts. She doesn't like pink, so.
Right? Cash, we know that you have some.
Yeah, I do. But they're not worn often.
Right? So out of the 3 of us, only one of us, out of the 3 of us girls, only one of us have pink shirts.
Yeah.
Like, I just think the relevance of this question,
Yeah.
there is none.
It's ridiculous. Grasping at straws.
Right? You're asking a teenage boys in the 90s. This is a grunge era, people.
Yeah.
Grunge and goth, this is what that era is. Everybody wore black. And I'm
Even
not,
now, like even my
right?
kids now, all their shirts are black and gray.
Right? And a lot of the reasoning is because A, black is slimming. Black goes with everything. Black doesn't show stains, especially sweat stains from teenage boys.
Yeah.
Like and I'm not saying that they like blamed these boys because they wore black t-shirts. That's not it at all. But they made such a big deal out of it that it probably affected the jury. There's no way this did not affect the jury at all. And it's just fucking nonsense. Okay, so this is how they end Ridge's testimony. So now again, the argument that many people say, those in support of the West Memphis Three make, is that the police and the prosecution went after Damien simply because he was weird, listened to heavy metal, and wore black. And while that is not true, Damien didn't do himself any favors by being a smartass and telling the investigators all the stuff about the occult and encouraging them to think that he was involved. However, when the prosecution bring up shit like this, did you see any gray or white shirts at Damien or Jason's house? And bringing 11 black t-shirts to trial just to show how many black t-shirts he owned? That sure plays into the theory. So you can't judge a lot of the supporters for thinking that this is why they were blamed or like why they were found guilty, but like that this played a significant part in it, because it absolutely did when they do shit like this. This played a huge part in the jury's perception of them. Did they think that if they found 20 white t-shirts that the jury would say, oh, well, maybe they didn't do it because they also wore white? No, that like they used it to say, look at how weird they are. They wore all these black shirts. Just fucking nonsense. So yeah, that's Detective Ridge, our evidence losing detective.
Shocked he still had a job after losing evidence.
Right?
So such a huge issue.
Yeah. I can't believe that it wasn't made a bigger deal in trial, right? Like the defense attorney should have harped on this. Like, so, okay, so you lost this evidence. So how can we guarantee that the evidence that you have is the real evidence? Because you're not good at handling evidence, right? You lost the significant evidence. You didn't bring the sticks at the day you discovered the crime scene. You went back 2 months later and brought these sticks. You don't have a good track record here, Detective Ridge. How can we be sure any of this evidence is legitimate? Not to mention all the wet, muddy clothes that you put into these bags. And the bags have no evidence of anything wet going into them or mud going into them. So were they transferred to different bags? Like, defense attorneys, hello? Like, wake the fuck up. What the hell? If they'd have been really good defense attorneys, they would have discredited this detective easily, right? The fact that he brought up Jesse Miskelly's confession when they weren't supposed to, and they're just like, the judge is like, no, like, okay, you didn't bring it up as a mistrial, but why not mention the fact, hey, Detective Ridge, why did you make mistakes such as you did? Why can you not follow instructions? And we're supposed to trust that you did your job. Fucking moron. Moron.
Yeah, but the whole case is messed up.
It is. I honestly think they should have been like they had what is it called? When your counsel doesn't do very good. Oh, there's a fucking word for it. Their appeal of terrible lawyers. There's there's a technical term. I can't remember what it is, but that should have been allowed because their lawyers, some of them, I think they all had the best intentions. I think some were very inexperienced and just didn't know what to harp on, but I don't know. It just sucks all around, from the detectives to the defense attorney. The judge was terrible.
But they don't even sound like they were just fresh out of school, because should know all that information.
Right? If you were fresh out of school,
Yeah.
It should be in your mind. You'd be like, hey, I just was taught this by my professor. I know you can't do that. But no. It'd be interesting to hear from a lawyer, like how much, like you learn all the technicalities in law school and all the rules of what you can and can't do and stuff, but how much like do you learn about in a courtroom and in a trial? I wonder how much of that they actually learn. Like do they do like in class, do they do like mock trials and stuff? It'd be interesting to find that out.
Would be.
I so want to go watch a murder trial.
Are you interested?
But not like
Don't you? Do it up.
So the reason I don't is because my day job is not very accommodating.
Right.
Because I would love to be on jury duty as well, but a dang day job, again, not very accommodating for stuff like that.
I know.
But yeah, I have a friend that's a lawyer that's like, oh, you should come and watch this trial or this case, whatever. And I'm like, I really want to, but it's frowned upon for me to
Well,
leave
it can be
home.
part of your vacation days.
Right? I
Spend your
hope
vacation doing that.
I totally will. If he has a good trial, I'm going to be like, okay, I've got 2 weeks. Bring me a murder case. I want to come and watch.
Yeah.
Some of them, I guess, you can watch online. So I just have headphones on. The kids will be like, what are you watching? Nothing. Guilty! What? Nothing. So that's it for Moms on Mics this week.
Don't forget to follow us on Instagram at Moms on Mics Podcast, on TikTok at Moms on Mics, and join our Facebook group, Moms on Mics.
If anyone has any topics you would like us to cover, or if you have any questions or suggestions, you can email us at momsonmics@gmail.com or submit through our website, momsonmics.com.
We would also appreciate it if you could rate and review us on whatever platform you're listening on. It really helps the podcast move up on their charts so it gets more exposure. I hope you join us again next week. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.